Welcome to day 5 of the ANC's National Conference. The organization wrapping up its 5-day conference here in Newzroom. We're expecting the results of the NEC to be announced sometime later today. Voting still continues. There's some report back from commissions happening at plenary, and in fact we've just received communication now from the ANC asking members of the media covering this conference to make their way to the assembly point for a procession into the plenary. So it looks like there will be an opening session. The question now is President Cyril Ramaphosa going to deliver that closing address before the NEC results are announced, or is the media going to be given the opportunity to capture those results as they are announced? We'll keep a close eye on what's happening inside that plenary. But for now, Zokani Mkiva, Contralesa General Secretary, joins me now in our studio. Mr. Mkiva, thank you so much for making time for us. So as Contralesa, what's your reaction to the results yesterday?
Well, first and foremost, what we wish to say as Contralesa is to congratulate the ANC for holding a conference which we could call now a resounding success, even though that the work of the conference is not complete 100%, given the fact that the elections for additional members is still underway. And then insofar as the leadership that has been elected here, we are quite grateful that it has come to that point, and we wish to congratulate President Ramaphosa, his deputy, as well as the entire officials for this election. I think this was a democracy at play, and we're here from the beginning, and we're still here observing and participating in this conference, because as traditional leaders we take pride in the ANC, in its history, in its experience, and in its expected role that it ought to play in our society. And therefore we're grateful that despite all issues of contestation, it has come to a point that there's a collective leadership that has been elected, and all what we want to say is that all the members of the ANC must rally behind this leadership. The ANC is a unitary organization, and we live in a unitary country, and therefore it is important that even when we were contesting each other, at the end of the day we must realize that once a leadership is elected, then the ANC is a winner and the country is a winner.
Yeah. You've mentioned that you expect the ANC to do what is expected to do, and in the past the ANC has always been expected to focus on local government, on vulnerable communities. Do you think that they've done that in the last 5 years, and what are you hoping changes as this new leadership starts its term for the next 5 years?
There is a lot that we can point to that has happened in the last 5 years, but there's also a lot that we can point to that hasn't happened. Because the leadership was more looking inward, and they had petty squabbles where they were fighting each other, to a point where they get defocused to look into the real issues that they need to attend to. We are very concerned about the slow pace of the tackling of the land question in South Africa, because we believe that if we fail to attend to this as urgently as possible, it may trap our children and children's children to fight amongst each other, because the land question is related to the wealth of the country. The bulk of our people are still living in squalor, and we believe that if the ANC were to work collectively and agree that this leadership that is elected must express love for the people and put people first, and with the capacity and the capability that they have, we believe that they can do this. So we are saying they must now begin a process of ensuring that they look out in executing what the people expect them to do in terms of their aspiration, to tackle poverty, to tackle joblessness, to tackle issues of inequality. This country has got enough wealth. This country is endowed with all type of mineral wealth, and all it needs is a leadership that is focused to the task at hand, to ensure that they do the wonders that our people expect.
Speaking of the question of land, they were not able to have that expropriation without compensation in Parliament. They didn't have the numbers. The EFF voted against it. But the ANC believes that its expropriation bill right now is going to respond to that land question and ensure land restitution. Do you think that's sufficient, or do you think ANC needs to come up with policies at this conference that somehow are going to bring about policies in government that then fasten that pace of land restitution and redistribution?
Well, I think the ANC has got a bulk of very good progressive policies. The problem is not the policy poverty in the country. The problem is the poverty of the implementation of the very existing policies. So if the leadership is focused, the only thing that it needs to do now is to focus on what we already have and ensure that we come up with a very robust implementation plan of those policies. And I believe that the issue of expropriation without compensation is a first step towards the realization of the bigger goal of the restoration of the land to its rightful owners. That's all what we want. And once we do that, half of the job is done. And then we get into the issue of the total emancipation of the country insofar as the economy is concerned. Because we can't say we have a meaningful participation in the economy of the country when 80% of the wealth of the land is still in the hands of the erstwhile colonizers. That needs to be transformed. That needs to be changed. And the leadership must show courage and begin to take the bull by its horn in a very responsible way and within the parameters of the law. We have a constitution in place, which is a living document. Let's simply use the constitution and do all of these things and empower our people in the manner that we ought to do. And the leaders must not start with themselves, because if you start with yourself, you get consumed amongst yourself, and then you negate the bigger responsibility. Start with the people. Leaders must not be involved in business. They must not be involved in transactions that are going to benefit them individually. They must be involved in executing the task of ensuring that people participate meaningfully into the economy of the country. This is what we call for, and I think is reasonable.
Zokani Mkiva, Contralesa General Secretary, thank you for making time for us. So we've just only mentioned the issue of land. That's one of the policy issues that are being discussed behind closed doors here at the ANC's National Conference.